You're listening to The Pete Sheppard Show on the Riptide Media Network.
And good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Pete Sheppard Show here on the Riptide Media Network. How's everybody doing this morning? Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Just another special one-hour show today. My good friend, executive producer, and new bridegroom, Angel Martinez, still has the day off. I promise we are together tomorrow. He's just taking care of some family business, and he's actually headed down this way towards the Fort Myers area here in Southwest Florida. We will be together on Thursday and Friday, I believe, from our plush Naples Well Planning Studios together tomorrow. So one more day of just a one-hour show today. It's going to go by very quickly. And Angel will be back tomorrow. Again, congratulations to Angel and his lovely new bride, Debbie. Much happiness the rest of the way. Okay, it's going to be a sad day today, but happy memories. And what I'm talking about is the passing of Willie Mays. We'll get to the Stanley Cup and all that stuff. We're going to really focus on Willie Mays, at least for the first half. Arguably, if he's not the greatest player of all time, greatest 5'2" player of all time, I mean, got to be top three. With all due respect to Babe Ruth and everybody else, this guy did it all. Unbelievable. And the only bad part for me is watching him play live, which didn't happen until I was about 6 or 7 years old, and it was at the end when he was with the Mets, and it was just, it wasn't the same. But my dad used to talk about Willie Mays all the time, what a great player he was, and and there's something. The nostalgia of baseball is very different than all the rest of the sports. It may not be the most popular sport right now for a lot of different reasons, but there is something unique about baseball and nostalgia that really you can't. It's different from all the other sports. And for players like this, the late great now Willie Mays died of 93. We're going to get into it in a lot more. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out here on the Riptide Media Network. The video platform, as always, all the places you can find us here on Twitter, X, on my Facebook and Broad Street South Facebook pages, YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, Twitch, Brumble, Sports Radio 102.9, obviously. Exec producer Angel Martinez will be back with me tomorrow and host, as will the shows. Martinez Company, that's usually on 10 a.m. to noon, and middays with Q from noon to 1 p.m. They are all both going to return on Monday because we got some really cool things happening here. If you notice some of the banners in the background and stuff, Angel's done an amazing job of putting together this Riptide Media Network and Sports Radio 102.9 banners in the background and all that stuff. So a lot of good fancy smancy stuff. We have our imaging, as they say, imaging. All done and ready to go now for all three shows, and more are going to be added sooner rather than later. So we'll keep you updated on all of that. But today, just a short 1 hour show with yours truly until 8 o'clock this morning. Bill Sparrows is going to join me at the bottom of the hour. Lots to talk about with him regarding not only the Celtics claiming number 18 the other night, but also his thoughts on Willie Mays. 727-858-6650. That's the number to call, 727-858-6650. Bob says, yes, to say, hey, kid, love to watch him run. And, of course, Willie Mays. Everybody, if you don't know, this is where your young whippersnappers need to really do your homework and stuff. I mean, I knew about the catch, probably but by the time, like I said, I saw Willie play for the Mets, and I knew about the catch back then. My father would talk about it all the time. We're talking about what happened in the 54 World Series when he chased down a ball, and slow motion doesn't do it justice. They won the World Series that year. San Fran did. They swept the Cleveland Indians, I believe, 4-0. But everybody remembers arguably the greatest catch. If it's not the greatest catch in Major League Baseball history, it is definitely the greatest catch in World Series history. And you have to watch it in fast motion. If you watch it in slow motion, it doesn't do it justice. And we're talking about Willie Mays running down Vic Wertz in deep center field. Some ball well over 400 feet that was hit, and he just turned on the afterburners. He didn't even look up at the ball. It made the over-the-shoulder catch. Like he said, the last 20 yards, he just ran as fast as he could and stuck his glove out. I mean, but to chase that ball down, what he did, absolutely unbelievable. So we'll get into all of his numbers and what he, I mean, just right off the top to say, hey, kid, number 24, also made 24 all-star teams. 24. 12 gold gloves. Career batting average of over 300. Just absolutely amazing. 93 years old when he passed away. Died of heart failure at his home in Palo Alto, California last night. He had just released his final public statement, by the way, when he said he chose to stay in California and not attend the MLB at Rickwood Field game between the Giants and Cardinals. That was going to happen later on this week because that's where he really began his career. And we'll get to the announcement last night from Rickwood and also from the Giants radio and TV network last night when this all came to fruition. Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, released this statement. Said all of Major League Baseball is in mourning today as we gathered at the very ballpark where a career and a legacy like no other. Willie Mays took his all-around brilliance from the Birmingham Black Barons of the Negro American League to the historic Giants franchise. From coast to coast in New York and San Francisco, Willie inspired generations of players and fans, and the game grew and truly earned its place as our national pastime at the time, yes. So great statement there. As he said, he really started back with the Chattanooga Choo-Choos. That was a Negro minor league team, and then made his way to the Birmingham Black Barons of the Negro American League, and he had the nickname of Buck. And I'll never forget, I've seen the video, it's out there, the first time Vince Scully did not meet him. The late, great Vince Scully did not meet Willie Mays face-to-face until he showed up at a Dodger game, obviously against the Giants, and I think it was in 2017 or 2018. I remember Vince Scully calling him Buck back then. I'm sure a lot of people didn't get that, but that was what he was known as. The Black Barons, by the way, were managed by Piper Davis, who was a teammate of Willie's dad back in the day on the industrial team. So really cool stuff. So it's a sad day, but full of happy memories for the late, great Willie Mays. And here's what happened. Again, they were supposed to play tomorrow against the Cardinals at Rickwood Stadium. That game is still going to go on, but Willie Mays was supposed to be there. He made a statement last night or 2 days ago that he was not going to attend, and then obviously he passed away. But here's last night, MLB, an in-game tribute to Willie Mays at the Rickwood game.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have some very sad news to share. A short time ago, the San Francisco Giants, Major League Baseball, and the Willie Mays family announced that the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays, one of the greatest players in the history of our game, has passed away at the age of 93. He was born here in Alabama, got his start in this very ballpark, thrilled generations of baseball fans with his brilliant play, and we will always cherish the memory and life of the great Willie Mays.
Okay, so that's how it went down last night at Rickwood in Alabama, where they're going to play a game tomorrow. Meanwhile, last night, as the Cubs were beating San Francisco in the top of the fifth inning, the Cubs were up 2-0, and then Johnny Miller, a great announcer, longtime announcer for the San Francisco Giants, got word of the passing of Willie Mays.
For many, many years, Willie Mays broke in 1951. He played games here, has had great moments here. And Willie Mays' name has been much on our minds with the Giants special game the night after tomorrow coming up in Birmingham, Alabama, where Willie began his brilliant and fabled career at Rickwood Field with the old Birmingham Black Barons of the so-called Negro Leagues. But we are very sad now to relay this information that has just been released by the Giants, that the great Willie Mays has passed away. He passed away peacefully this afternoon at the age of 93. As the Giants come to bat here in the fifth inning with Jorge Soler, then Nick Ahmed and Yastrzemski. The Giants release said, "It is with great sadness that we announce that Giants legend and Hall of Famer Willie Mays passed away peacefully this afternoon." Michael Mays, Willie's son, quoted as saying, "My father has passed away peacefully and among loved ones. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my broken heart." That one is off the inside. "For the unwavering love you have shown him over the years. You have been his life's blood." So over to first base goes Jorge Soler. The Giants get a leadoff man aboard here in the fifth inning. Greg Johnson, the Giants chairman, said, "Today we have lost a true legend. In the pantheon of baseball greats, Willie Mays' combination of tremendous talent, keen intellect, showmanship, and boundless joy set him apart. A 24-time All-Star. The Say Hey Kid is the ultimate forever Giant. He had a profound influence not only on the game of baseball, but on the fabric of America. He was an inspiration and a hero who will be forever remembered and deeply missed."
Oh, thanks again to NBC Sports Bay Area, Johnny Miller, with that announcement. On the radio side of it, KNBR, Dave Fleming used to work with the Red Sox, by the way. He's a long time, even though he's kind of a younger guy, radio announcer, baseball radio, play-by-play man. Dave Fleming, when he got the news, this is from KNBR 680.
Now a ground ball to third. And Chapman throws out Swanson. I'm having a hard time saying the words. But we found out just a little while ago, and the Giants have now made an announcement. Here's a ground ball to second. Estrada throws out Pete Crow Armstrong, the all-time greatest Giant. Number 24, Willie Mays, has passed away today at the age of 93. And right as we get ready to head to his hometown and honor great Willie Mays, we have to say goodbye. So we'll step aside here for a moment and come back, and the ball game will continue. And obviously we're going to talk a lot more about Willie tonight and over the next many, many days. I hate to be the one to have to pass that news along, but Willie Mays today has died at the age of 93. We'll be back on the KNBR Northern California Honda Dealers Radio Network.
Again, thanks there once again to Dave Fleming, KNBR, flagship for the Giants, 680 AM. Very emotional, and you can understand why. I actually thought Johnny Miller was a lot more composed than I thought he was. I mean, it was just a little clip that we played, a couple minutes ago. But John's been doing Giants games for years. He did Red Sox and Baltimore games for years as well. But Johnny Miller mostly now is known as the voice of the San Francisco Giants. So, I mean, the resume of Willie Mays is, it's off the chart. Tim brings up a good point, a.k.a. Dopey. But, yeah, he says, where would Mays be in the record books if he didn't fight in the war? Almost 2 years lost. Yeah, rest in peace, Willie. Yeah, Tim, absolutely. And it's probably I'm going to bring up. He got drafted. He missed a couple of years. He fought in Korea. We'll get to that. But as far as record books goes, I mean, he's so far at the top of almost in the top five in almost every single category, and it really is amazing. You look at, you know, I've read a couple of books about. I used to have a whole library of baseball books because, like I said, I was really fascinated with the nostalgia of the game and the history of the game, back to the Negro Leagues and all the way up, uh, to Major League Baseball. But I remember reading Summer of '49 back in the day between the American League. Great book about the American League pennant run between the Red Sox, Cleveland, and the Yankees, and how it came down to the last couple of days of the season. Also, I mean, I used to love reading, the book about the Dodgers. Why does that name escape me? It's a great book about when Jackie Robinson first came up for the Dodgers. I remember doing a book report on that in high school. And like I said, there's just something nostalgic about baseball that you can't really compare to a lot of other sports. It just doesn't transcend. If you talk about a lot of records that are standard in baseball, you know the names. If you say it in football, you might know in a couple. Hockey and basketball, you might know a few here and there, but the baseball is always good. That's why stats are so sacred. That's why when, with the steroids scandal and all that stuff, and even though I'm kind of over that now because everybody was doing it, so I just say put everybody in. But that's why people got so upset back in the day because of that, because baseball records are really more sacred than a lot of other sports. But I mean, you look at Willie Mays and how he got to San Francisco. He got promoted to AAA, the AAA Millers of the American Association back in 1951. He batted .477 in 35 games. Playing great defense. He gets called up. Now think about this. He gets called up by the Giants May 24th, 1951. And he didn't want to play for them because he thought he wasn't ready to face major league pitchers. So the great Leo DeRocha, the Giants manager at the time, called Mays up directly and said, cut the shit, basically. You're costing the ball club money with long distance phone calls and join the team. I mean, it's unbelievable. And that's when he that's when he kind of got the moniker called the Say Hey Kid. After that, man, the rest is history. What he did, absolutely incredible. Rookie of the year. He was in the on deck circle. People forget this. He was in the on deck circle October 3rd, but Bobby Thompson hit the 3-run homer to win the game, the National League tiebreaker series. 2-0. The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. I get the feeling, even if I forget if there were 2 outs or not when he hit that. I can't remember when Bobby hit that shot. But Willie probably would have got it done as the next batter up. They ended up losing the Yankees that year in the World Series in 6 games. And what's historic about that, in Game 1, Mays, Hank Thompson, Monty Irvin, that was the first all-black outfield in Major League history. You think about it. That's amazing. Joe D was on that team. Yankee rookie Mickey Mantle on that team. Then later on, after that, after the 51 season, he gets drafted into the U.S. Army to serve in the Korean War. Before he left, he played the first few weeks of the 52 season. He batted .236 with 4 homers in 34 games. Then, obviously, he comes back. Mays missed about 266 games because of military service. Discharged on March 1st, 1954. Came to Giants spring training camp the following day. Began the 54 season on the opening day with a home run of over like 415 feet. And went on to win. I mean, 24 All-Star appearances, 12 Gold Gloves. Between New York and San Francisco. And then you get this. You look at financially. You think about this with this guy's incredible resume, right? And what he has done. As far as money goes, he was the highest paid player at one point in the league like around 1960. I think he was making $75,000 a year. He was the highest paid player then. $75,000 a year. When what was it? When he got to the Giants. I mean, when they went to San Francisco. And I got to find the stats here. It really is incredible. Here it is. Before the 63 season, May signed a deal worth a record-setting, this is 1963 now, $105,000 per season. That's equivalent today of a little over $1,040,000. And then amazing. On July 2nd of that year, Spahn and Juan Marichal each threw 15 scoreless innings, and then Willie hit a 16th inning home run off of Spahn, gave the Giants a 1-0 win. He considered the home run one of the most important, along with the first and fourth home run game in August. He won his third and a National League Player of the Month back then, batted .387 with 8 homers and 27 RBI. But just think about that. 1963, a record-setting contract of $105,000 per season, equivalent to just a little over $1 million. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, his resume, the numbers just speak for themselves. Career batting average of .301, 3,293 hits, 660 home runs, 1,909 RBI, 24-time All-Star from 1954 to 73, World Series champion in 54, only one he won. 2-time National League MVP. It's amazing he didn't win more. 1954 and then 1965. National League Rookie of the Year in 51. 12-time Gold Glove Award winner, 1957 and 1968. The Roberto Clemente Award in 71. National League Batting Champ in 54. 4-time National League Home Run Leader, 1955, 62, 64, 65. 4-time National League Stolen Base Leader. A lot of people forget how good a base stealer he was as well. 1955, 62, 64, 65. Oh, that was a home run leader. 4-time National League Stolen Base Leader from 56 to 59, 4 years in a row. He had a 4-home run game on April 30th, 1961, as I just remembered. His number 24, retired by both the San Francisco Giants and the New York Mets, is on the Giants Hall of Fame, the Major League Baseball All-Century Team, Major League Baseball All-Time Team, inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1979. 94.7% on the first ballot. How is not 100% is beyond me. You still got these curmudgeonly guys out there that will not, as they always say, Babe Ruth didn't get into the first ballot. It's just so stupid to me. So stupid. Anyway, we're remembering Willie Mays, who passed away peacefully at his home, Palo Alto, California, yesterday afternoon at the age of 93, surrounded by family. 93 years old. 93 years old. 727-858-6650. That is the number to text. You're going to have to just text today because Angel isn't around. Bill Sparrows is going to join me very shortly here at the bottom of the hour. We'll get his thoughts on Willie Mays and a lot of other things. There's some big-time gambling issues that the Supreme Court rejected. So everything is hunky-dory here, at least in the state of Florida. Going to get Bill's take on some of that. The Celtics winning championship number 18. And the Florida Panthers last night had a chance to clinch the Stanley Cup first time. And Connor McDavid absolutely proving why he is indeed the best player in the National Hockey League. He just took over that game last night again, shorthanded early for the Edmonton Oilers, and they go on. They got a big early 4-1, and they end up winning 5-3 last night. I really thought the Florida Panthers would come back, much like the Celtics did against Dallas. After Florida got blown out in Game 4, like the Celtics did in Game 4, but Florida give the Edmonton Oilers a ton of credit. Connor McDavid now has 42 points in 23 playoff games. He had 2 goals and 2 assists last night. He was unbelievable. There was one shift he was on the ice for 2 minutes and 27 seconds before getting an assist. It was absolutely amazing. We'll get into all of that, a lot more. We're going to take a quick break here. Again, short today, only an hour. It is the Pete Sheppard Show right here on the Riptide Media Network.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
The Pete Sheppard Show. It's fun for the whole family. If it's dysfunctional.
And welcome back to the Pete Sheppard Show here on the Riptide Media Network. And thanks for checking us out all over the place on the video platform. Following me here on Twitter, X, on the Facebook and Broad Street South pages, YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, Twitch, Rumble, and of course on Sports Radio 102.9. Angel Martinez will be back with me tomorrow. We'll have full shows the rest of the week and all next week. And everybody in the network is back on Monday as I broadcast live today from the Isola della Cucina, which is my kitchen island here in Southwest Florida, in Fort Myers, where it is already 79 degrees, but less humid today. And meanwhile, we welcome in our first guest, my first guest, Bill Sparrows, senior betting analyst from bookies.com. and also a great columnist for the Boston Herald. Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Hey, Pete. Breakfast of champions, baby. Yeah.
How much was that?
Oh, I've had that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still have the Flutie Flakes too?
No, I never got those. But I remember, that box has got to be at least, 2007. So,
wow. Well, lots to talk to you about today. First, as I spent the first half hour going, it would take me 8 hours or more to go through, Willie Mays' resume. But really, I'm 57. Unfortunately, the only time I got to see him play live that I remember, because my dad would talk about him all the time, was when he was with the Mets at the end. It was terrible. Even though that 73 Mets team, and people forget, you talk about the 69 Miracle Mets, that 73 team almost pulled it off. That would have been a miracle. I think they finished 82-80 that year, made the playoffs, and nearly beat the Orioles in the World Series in 73. But Willie had already, he was done back then. But I didn't get to see him play live until the very end when he was a mere shell of himself. But everybody remembers the Vic Wertz catch back in the 54 World Series where, as I say all the time, Bill, you have to watch that play in fast motion. Slow motion doesn't do it justice by any stretch of the imagination. And they went out to sweep the Indians that year, 4-0. But before we get into some other stuff, your thoughts on the passing of the Say Hey Kid Willie Mays, unbelievable, arguably the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, a lot of people forget Willie was in the Army for 2 years after he was Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
So like Ted Williams, his stats were muted by military service. So we don't know, how many home runs he would have hit, how many hits he would have had. It's nice to see his Negro League stats are added. I hope that someday they find more home runs for him and Hank Aaron, which that to me is a nice counter to the steroid guys.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to count home runs for steroid guys, obviously the quality of the baseball these guys played in the Negro Leagues was pretty good. So I hope they find 50 home runs for Hank Aaron and 100 for Willie Mays so they can, be where they should be. Willie, I don't know if you talked about this, but Mays and Mantle were banned from baseball in the late 70s because they, worked for a casino in New Jersey and they didn't register. And that was in violation of the, baseball gambling rules. And this Bowie Kuhn was the one who suspended them. And then Petey Uberoth eventually reinstated them. And at the time, I remember that was a pretty big deal. And kudos to Pete Uberoth, who was really a shrewd guy all the way around. And I posted on Twitter last night this Suffolk Downs ad that was always ringing in my head. And there's an ad. It had John Havlicek, Russ Francis, Jerry Cheevers, Havlicek, Willie Mays, and Red Auerbach. I don't know. I would love to know the story behind that. I got to believe they got Red walking in the track because, he said, you pay me, I'll take 50 steps. I ain't taking a step. I'm sure he turned around and walked out. Looks like Cheevers, pirated a free mail off the deal. And, Wes Francis was grabbing some chick who probably had no idea what was going on.
And Mike Torres was there too.
Torres, Hondo, and Mays were all at the rail. It's a great ad. And it is, I know we talk about gambling a lot. And it is interesting how, Willie Mays was suspended from baseball because he worked for a casino. Well, he was like an ambassador.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's silliness back then.
And it's just, again, that, now baseball is not only intertwined with gambling, but dealing with a lot of gambling related issues. It just, again, I always say this to people, baseball and gambling have been intertwined since there was baseball. And, we had a gambling scandal in the National League in 1877. So when people try to tell you or anyone, oh my God, there's this legalized sports betting that's causing a gambling. No, gambling has been an integral part of baseball because you're sitting there for 3 hours. 90% of the time, there's nothing going on. So of course you have to have some action on the game, or you're going to be bored.
But the thing is too, Bill, and we talk about this all the time when it comes to sports betting. If gambling was legal back even in the 1800s, 1900s, whatever, if it was legal, maybe the Black Sox scandal and that stuff doesn't even really happen. Because it is legal. Because it is legal, we are finding out about all these
Yes,
illegal
a lot of
activities going on that we would never have found out if
yeah,
it wasn't legal.
and the Otani thing was unearthed because of an FBI investigation into someone who was basically money laundering. I always tell people when you have two different sorts of gambling scandals. You have the kind like the Jonte Porters and the other baseball players who I didn't even hear, I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Those guys gamble through legal means, and eventually they're flagged because of the processes that the legal sports books use, and they're flagged. It all goes back to social security numbers and geotagging for those who care about the details.
Yep.
They're all tagged. Eventually they're caught. It takes time because it just takes time to, run everything and cross check. With Jonte Porter, the DraftKings and FanDuel screwed up because, the second somebody walked into or placed a bet with, on a guy going over 3 points or under 3 points, and it's a 5-figure bet. I had one operator tell me that, how shocked he was that they even got the bet down. Because if you're betting 10 grand on some guy on a two-way guy going under 3 points, that should have been a red flag right then and there. The book should have flagged that. They should have never taken the bet.
Yep.
And they should have reported it. And a lot of them do. It's a maturing industry. I liken sports betting, legal sports betting, to like a 16-year-old kid. He's sort of fully grown on the outside. He's strong, big, but on the inside, it still hasn't quite matured. You still have a lot of problems when you're dealing with a fully grown teenager, and that's kind of where sports betting is right now in this country. They're sort of going through the growing pains. They're almost done in terms of growth. You have a few more states coming in the next few years, but now it's kind of the industry's maturing. It's sort of getting, figuring out what's right, what's wrong. And so, the fact that Willie Mays, you could argue he was the greatest all-around player of all time. You can make that case. Was suspended from baseball because he took a job with Mickey Mantle, greeting as a casino and didn't bother to register with the gaming commission, which was obviously innocuous. And say, hey, Willie, here's a few bucks, wave to people. And he was great. I mean, the guy was doing that for Suffolk Downs, for crying out loud.
Yeah, exactly. No, and he gets into he gets inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1979. First ballot, only 94.7%. I'd love to know the idiots who just didn't vote for it. I can't stand Baseball Hall of Fame writers because of the hypocrisy, and they think they're bigger than the game. Man, it's just ridiculous.
None of those old guys got in unanimously. How do you say that Joe DiMaggio or Ted Williams?
Babe Ruth, all of them. None of them got in.
Or Babe Ruth or Cy Young. Yeah. How does Cy Young not get in unanimously? I mean, it's the Cy Young Award.
They're crazy. All right, let's move on to what happened a couple of days ago. And I know you wrote about it. Again, Bill Sparrow's joining us, senior betting analyst from bookies.com and also great columnist for the Boston Herald. Before we get into the Celtics, Hard Rock, big win in the Supreme Court a couple of days ago. So we want to fill in our listeners on exactly what happened in layman's terms, because a lot of people still, I get asked all the time. I say, well, I'll have Bill on this week, and he can explain it better than I can. All I know is status quo here, at least in Florida.
Yes. Yeah, and that's really that's as far as people in Florida who bet through the app, nothing's going to change, and nothing's going to change for a very long time. That's all you need to know. The details were basically this: there were several lawsuits filed against the compact that the governor of the tribe signed in 2021 that allowed sports betting. There were state lawsuits, there were federal lawsuits. The state lawsuits exhausted earlier this year when the Florida Supreme Court threw them out on standing, which means they can be refiled. This federal lawsuit was filed in November 2021. A federal judge shut down the app, as a lot of people know. Appeals court reinstated it. Wes Flagler, who obviously has interests where you are and elsewhere in Florida, although they sold the casino in Miami, they sued, saying the compact was illegal. Appeals court overturned the lower judge decision, and just this past week, the Supreme Court on Monday said they were not going to hear the case. So that means the lower court ruling stands, the compact is valid, and the sports betting online and retail in Florida is going to continue. Also, the roulette and craps for those who play those games at the Hard Rock casinos. They're also going to continue. They too were part of the compact. So yeah, nothing's going to change. What it means elsewhere is you'll probably see tribes, and especially in California, sort of try to make similar deals with the state. Although I know how dysfunctional the government is out there. I mean, you have to remember this was a compact. This was not the tribe just doing it on their own. They have to have compacts with the state, and the Department of Interior has to either approve the contract or not disapprove it, if that makes any sense. This deal here, they just let the period lapse. They never approved it, but they never disapproved it either, because so there's a process involved. So it's not like you're going to have the tribes launching their own sports books tomorrow in California. It's going to take a while. But it sort of opens the door for what is in Florida, the hub and spoke approach, where the servers are on the Indian lands, but they're taking bets everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The Supreme Court, they didn't necessarily rule on the merits of that, but they said the compact stands. So that avenue is dead on the federal level. And quite frankly, West Flagler spent a fortune in legal fees, and I don't know of anyone else who's going to do that. They still have some chance on the state court. You may see some lawsuits filed in Leon County. But, the state Supreme Court here, DeSantis has packed it like FDR. They're not going to rule against the compact. So in reality, it stands. It's not going anywhere. Next session, likely, there's going to be a push to legalize online casino through the app. The tribe has said to me on and off the record in various stages, they are willing and open to partner with other operators, especially if they get iGaming.
Mm-hmm.
So what might happen in a year or two is where you would maybe see a DraftKings or a FanDuel come into the state, but as a partner with the tribe. So basically they would market and operate their book, but the license, sort of what ESPN does with their book. The ESPN Bet book is owned by Penn. Penn just pays ESPN to put their name on it. What would happen in Florida is the tribe would do a 60-40 cut with DraftKings, and it would be the Hard Rock app, by DraftKings or sponsored by DraftKings. And that way, you'd probably be able to take advantage of their odds and their other interface. And they would just pay the tribe a cut as an operator. Because if DraftKings were to get a license, that would be considered expansion of gambling, and that would require a whole bunch of other things. This way, if they partner with the tribe and they just operate the tribe's books, they would be like just any other vendor. So I think that's I think that's how you'll see DraftKings and others eventually get into Florida, is through a marketing agreement with the tribe.
What about this? Somebody asked me this the other day too. What if Bill Sparrows wanted to start his own legalized sports book in Massachusetts? Could you do that? Or
yes. Yeah. In Massachusetts, yes. It costs $250,000 to apply for the license. It's non-refundable. And then you have, because that's the money they spend investigating you. You have to be, you obviously have to be, if I'm Whitey Bulger's grandson, or Billy Bulger's nephew, obviously they're probably going to flag that. But if someone with means wanted to open up a sports book in Massachusetts, they could do that. There's still 3 online licenses available, unaffiliated online licenses. There's also online licenses available through Suffolk Downs and Raynham, but they have yet to open up their retail books. Suffolk Downs would have to open a retail book, and then they could launch a mobile book. You could partner with them. You could partner with WinBet. You could partner with MGM Springfield. You could partner with Plainridge. So if you wanted to open up a sports book, if you have the means, you can do it. It's $1 million a year for 5 years, plus the $250,000 non-refundable application fee. And then you have to, go through all the other steps that all the other books but you can do it. You're not going to make any money. DraftKings has 50% of the market. FanDuel has another 20%. And MGM has actually started to spend some money. They moved into 3rd place. They're ahead of ESPN Bet and Caesars right now. WinBet pulled out, Better pulled out. Fanatics is trying, but they're not gaining any traction. But you can do it. It's just not really, you're not going to make any money. And it's a vicious market.
What if I, you know what's coming next out of my mouth, don't you? Is the great Michael Corleone and Godfather 2 to Senator Geary. When Senator Geary says, "I intend to squeeze you."
Well, you
About
can't.
that. No. But then Michael responds and says, "My offer is," because they were talking about licensing fee. "My offer is this," big pause, nothing, not even the licensing fee for the, not even the fee for the licensing uh, for the casinos, which I would appreciate if you would put up personally.
I mean, look, if you have leverage over, the 5 members of the gaming commission or Governor Healy, and you're going to shake them down, good luck. But
No, I know.
There's no way of getting around. That's statutory. The licensing fees are set. That's part of the law. What the gaming commission can do is sort of regulate how it's done, but the licensing fees, the application fees, the process that you have to follow if you were to open up a book, all that's set by the statute. That's set by the law. That's pretty much standard in most states. It's weird. Like in New Jersey, the gaming commission is part of the attorney general's office. So in New Jersey, the gaming commission has investigative power. They can, charge people with crimes if there's gambling problems. Like they can ban Bovada. In Massachusetts, the attorney general's office has to do that. In Michigan, the attorney general sent a cease and desist letter to Bovada, and that's the way it's been done in other states. In New Jersey, the gaming commission has the power, so it varies by states. So, like, people look at the Mass Gaming Commission and they say, "Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" They had a meeting last month where the operators didn't show up, and they had a couple of idiots on. One guy said, "Well, why don't you guys let this?" And then he's like, "Hey, we can't.
Yeah.
They don't have the statutory authority to do that." But they are working with the attorney general's office on the offshore and illegal books up there. They finally, they realize that if you regulate the hell out of DraftKings, you're opening up you're making the illegal market stronger.
Yeah.
Well, that's why, and again, it all goes back to money, right? If like right now, and you could look at Michigan. Michigan legalized gambling a couple of years ago. They created an entire market of new people who gamble, people like my brother who never bet before, and he sends me 80 DraftKings slips a night now. So you have all these people in a place like Michigan who now gamble. So the whole thing is my industry. We don't deal with people who don't gamble. We deal with people who have already made the decision to bet.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened, it happens in Michigan, is you've already made the decision to bet. You're already engaged, and you're betting through DraftKings, and you have to give them, a lot of information. You have to pay with cash. You have to put the money up front. Then you can go. You have an online book that's willing to extend you credit, that will take credit cards, that isn't going to report your income. And so what happens in these legal markets is the offshore books tend to grow as well, because you're creating a whole new pool of gamblers who realize if they bet offshore, they don't have to pay taxes on the money and they can use credit cards. So the states are finally realizing, hey, we're losing out. As we build the market, we're also losing a portion of those people to illegal books. So they're finally waking up to that. So that's sort of the next step in this thing from a legislative point of view. You got sort of 2 tracks. You have one track that says, hey, we need a federal, we need to federalize the exclusion list. So if I excluded myself in Massachusetts and go to Pennsylvania, I'd be excluded there. We need some sort of federal oversight, perhaps on advertising, like with cigarettes. But then on the other hand, the industry's saying, wait a second, where's the protection we should get from illegal offshore books? So you're finally seeing that second part of it come to fruition statewide. And I think eventually what you'll see is a federal law that delivers some of these things that the responsible gaming community feels is good, like exclusion lists and other things, but also perhaps like with poker, offer a federal protection against offshore books. And I think that's where this needs to go if it's going to go on the federal level.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I could spend hours about why they should bring back online poker. I still use Bovada. The only thing about Bovada is it takes you about 10 days to get your money. That's all.
Well, that's always the caveat when you bet offshore.
Yeah.
You never know if you're going to get the money. Whereas DraftKings, and again, I use Massachusetts for obvious reasons, but And the Hard Rock here too. I take out my money immediately. They
exactly.
are really good.
Couple hours tops.
Yeah,
if
they're
not,
really good about paying.
You're right. Absolutely.
And that's the problem with an offshore book. You never have that.
But I've never had a problem with it. I've only used Bovada. I've never used anything else. I used Full Tilt and Poker Stars back in the day.
Yeah,
I never
were
had a
fine.
problem with them.
Yeah, there's no problem with Bovada. I mean, they run a good ship, but they're sort of the gold standard of, you have a lot of other books that you said earlier, what's to prevent me from going to Costa Rica and starting a sports book? Nothing.
Exactly. Nothing.
And then, if I get a bunch of people and I'm in the hole for $3 million, I just unplug it and leave. And y'all are waiting for your money.
Yeah. Well, I had friends, speaking of that, I had friends of mine who shall remain nameless, who about 20 years ago did that exact same thing. And guess who was waiting for them when they got off the plane at Logan on their way back? A bunch of federal marshals. In fact, so much so that one of the other relatives ended up staying over there and wouldn't come back because they couldn't extradite him. But if he did come back, he would have been arrested immediately. So I think things are not quite as tight like that as they were, but that's it's a reality. There was no question about it. All right, let me ask you real quick. Last few minutes here with Bill Sparrows, create columnist for the Boston Herald and senior betting analyst at bookies.com. The Celtics get number 18. It's just amazing, some of the numbers. And you got a great post, and I was thinking the exact same thing before you put it. To watch some of the ESPN knuckleheads as soon as Damon Lillard got to the Milwaukee Bucks, and they just, automatically, it's automatic, championship for Milwaukee, even though the Celtics had get Porzingis and Drew Holiday. And these people still don't. I tell people all the time, embrace the late, great Herb Brooks statement. I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right ones. And you can try to figure out all these super teams and whatever you want. The Celtics not only they got good players / great players, they got the right players that fit the way they play. And the people all year long about Tatum, even though it's his third time making first team All-NBA, and expect him to get 30 and 15 every single night. Otherwise, he's never going to be looked at. Go back over history. Even Shaq, how long it took him to make, and Michael Jordan, how long did it take them to win championships? And you look at the Brown and Tatum era, and the pictures from 7-8 years ago are hysterical. And then people forget they've been together 108 playoff games, and many of them in conference finals and championship mode. And it's refreshing to see. And finally, some of the nitwits on TV finally brought this up, that you actually can build an organization without firing the coach, even though we understand what happened, but without trading away everybody who doesn't, if you don't win right away, then we got to make a trade. And it's refreshing to see how the Celtics built this team up the way they did. And then you add a couple of great pieces in Porzingis and Drew Holiday, experience from the head coach all the way through the players was a 180 from, they just got it done. But God forbid we have a growing process in sports without having to fire everybody every other day. It's unbelievable. I was so proud of them. And because Joe went to my high school at Bishop Hendricken in Warwick, Rhode Island, especially proud. Always great with that Hawk pride. But I was, if I had $1 gazillion like David Portnoy, I too would have made a bigger bet. He had $1.5 million parlay on Scotty Scheffler in one of the golf tournaments, and then the Celtics winning the whole thing. He just pulled in a cool $1.5 million on his parlay. But I don't know if you went to the game. You probably didn't, but just your thoughts on the entire season and the narrative of the national media. Pathetic. Even going into game one of the finals, which they considered to be the Dallas Mavericks invitation. I've never seen anything like it. The disrespect out there. And in the end, they were all eating a bunch of crow.
Yeah, I never got the Dallas love. I had the Celtics in 6.
Me too.
And, I wouldn't say I overreacted after game 4 because I don't think I did. I was pretty measured. But, those things happen. Again, I always say this, and I wrote this column a few weeks ago. I'm glad everybody else caught up, and I mentioned it in my column today. It all starts with ownership.
Yep.
Wick is like the dream owner. I said it in my column today. He's the guy you want owning the Patriots and the South and the Bruins and the Red Sox. He's the guy. He's like the owner you would be if you inherited $5 billion and you were like, Richie Rich, but like a good Richie Rich. Because Richie Rich was a good guy, right?
He was a good
He was
guy.
a good kid. It was, I don't know, I forgot who his nemesis was, but so he's like a good Richie Rich. And he said it and he's done it. And he was the guy who not only put the money in, and Tatum's going to get his Supermax deal in a few weeks.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He also trusted his people. He has, Wick's a fan, which is great. I love that. But he's not a fan like me. I mean, I fired like Josh McDaniels at least 150 times on Twitter. Like even in years when the Patriots won the Super Bowl, I fired Josh McDaniels pretty much on like every week at halftime. My son would be like, "My God, why are you firing him again?" So Wick is not like half psychotic like someone like me. So he's got the part in him where he can see beyond like the last missed shot, and it paid off for him. He's got 2 championships. It's pretty good in the NBA.
Yes.
And this ownership group has had stability, and it also recognized, they let Danny Ainge make those deals. Remember, Danny poured this foundation, and he was drafted by Red. And I pointed that out today, and I know Shaughnessy mentioned it too. The foundation for this team is 7 decades in the making. And you want to go back to McHale helping Ainge too. You could go far back. That where he helped Ainge, and then the guys that Ainge got, Pierce and Garnett.
But you know what?
They were traded.
Real quick though about Danny Ainge. Sorry, but it's amazing because had Red not drafted him, I believe in the 3rd round. Remember, he's playing professional baseball for the Blue Jays. Not a great player or a better fielder. He said he wouldn't even enter his mind to leave baseball because he was playing there while he was playing for the Blue Jays, while he was at BYU. And he said, and I believe him, he said, I wouldn't even consider anything else. If it wasn't for the Celtics, if any other team, I would have said, no, I'm sticking with baseball. But because it was Red Auerbach and the Celtics, he said, okay, draft me and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I actually noted that too, that the Celtics had to pay off his contract with the Blue Jays.
Yep.
But if you look at, so you can sort of trace, it's like the family tree, right? Red, he drafted Danny Ainge.
Mm-hmm.
Danny becomes the GM. He swings a deal with McHale. He gets Pierce, Garnett, well, not Pierce, but he gets Garnett and Ray Allen. That team wins. They become champions. They become coveted. So Danny fleeces the Nets, and he gets the picks from, if you look at the trade, the Garnett trade with Pierce Garnett to the Nets, that was the trade that enabled them to draft Tatum and Brown. So there is a direct lineage that goes back to, I don't know, whenever Red took over, to this team, which to me is really cool. And it, this team, what have the Celtics always been, right? Team.
Exactly.
This team is a throwback. And it's a throwback, so much to the sense where, they have like Bill Russell's grandson in Brown, sort of, what Russell did off the court. And I touched on this today. And now that they're champions, and that was always, we knew that was a missing ingredient. But now that he's won a championship, I think you're going to see a lot more of Jaylen Brown doing what he does off the court. And I've never been a shut up and dribble guy. I don't, good for him. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what he says, especially when he's agreeing with Kyrie. But, good for him and good for Jason Tatum. I think these guys are going to diverge. You're going to see Jaylen Brown be much more of the, I want to affect change in the real world. And you're going to see Jason Tatum do more ads than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And either way, it's fine because they've won. Now that they've won, they've gotten the legitimacy that frees them up to do everything else. And you can go back to Bill Walton, Bill Russell, Kareem. Those guys all were athletes first, whether they were in college or the pros. And that success on the court for all three, whether they were still in college, like he was Alcindor back then.
Yeah.
Jabbar and Walton, they were very active socially. Walton got arrested. But they only got that platform because of sports, because of winning. They won championships in Westwood, both of them, right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And Russell, too, in Boston. And that allowed him to do what he did off the court. So the sports is a gateway for people like Brown, Russell, and Walton. And it's a different gateway for people like Tatum and Pat Mahomes Like you're going to see Jason Tatum everywhere, and that's great because he won. You're going to see Jaylen Brown everywhere, and that's great because he won. But it all goes back to the winning. It all goes back to the championships. And for that narrative, that's, like they have the stamp. You have the stamp of approval. You have, Bill Russell's widow telling me, well, Jaylen Brown, that was Bill's guy. And so but he wasn't Bill's guy until he won a championship. Now he's Bill's because he won a championship.
Yeah.
And even Russell, Russell always talked, about, but it was always, these guys never sold their basketball short. You look at Kareem, you look at Walton, you look at Russell, those guys, for everything they did off the court, and whatever you thought about it, good, bad, or otherwise, they never, ever sold their basketball short. Bill Walton was immensely competitive. Kareem was immensely competitive. Russell was, it's the first thing his widow said after he died. He won, 11 championships. That was the first line of his obit. So we talk about what they do as humans. Again, great. No problem with it. But they were always champions first. And now, in Jaylen Brown's case, and in Tatum's case, they're champions first. So everything else can follow. And that's, just another reason why for them the other night was great. I mean, personally, for me, it was great because, it's been 5 years. I almost forgot what it was like to celebrate a championship.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
That champagne has been sitting in the fridge for 5 freaking years. So, for me personally, it felt great just because the Celtics won and I'm a Celtics fan.
Yeah.
But it's also great for the organization. It's great for the players. It's great for the legacy. It's great for the city. I think the city handled it well. There was just the young kids, they had a good time.
Yeah.
They probably would have been arrested anyway if the Celtics hadn't won, the handful who were arrested. It was all very positive.
Yep.
It was 100% positive for anyone and everyone connected with the Celtics as fans, people connected with Boston, just being connected, all the crap that they've taken, the whole race card, all the other crap that, that came up before this series. And it's, let's not forget, there's going to be, that you have Team USA coming up. How many guys are these guys going to recruit? How many of these players on Team USA are going to be like, damn, get me in there?
Oh,
right?
I agree.
It's contagious.
Yeah.
And there ain't going to be no more, oh, I don't want to go to Boston. It's race. It's going to be like, oh, damn, Wick's spending that money. You guys won. I want a piece of that.
Yeah, but the narrative about players not wanting to come here is so false. It's been that way for a couple of decades. I mean, there's always certain cities and towns that some players in every sport don't want to go to. I think that narrative gets overblown because, like Kyrie, even the other day, kind of nonchalantly said, "Well, Boston wasn't my first choice when I was traded."
Yeah.
That kind of nonsense. And I'll just go away. You won in 13 against the Celtics. You're a great player, but you're 1-13 against the Celtics, and there is no doubt in my mind. Anybody who watched this series at all, Kyrie, those fans, and that atmosphere affected his game. There's no question about it. But Bill, real quick, I wanted to just when you brought up the Kevin Garnett deal, it always brings me back to the Garden during draft night of that year. Glenn and I doing the show, the big show, from the Garden. And the only time I really disagree with Tommy Heinsohn sat with us for about 20 minutes. And then we got word that the deal was about to come down with Ray Allen. He goes, "Peter, if the Boston Celtics ever trade for Kevin Garnett, this organization is going to take a step back." And I went, "Tommy, I love you." I go, "What are you?" I said this to him on the air. I go, "What are you, nuts?" I said, "This guy is phenomenal." I said, "They are going to go to the championship if they get this guy." There's no doubt about it. But he, of course, he changed his mind very, very quickly. And I think the Celtics started 18-1 that year as well, if I remember, on the dock. But I'll never forget, "Peter, if they ever," and I'm like, I'm about to disagree with Tommy Heinsohn, but I disagree with him. And we spoke a couple times after that. And I always brought that conversation up to him. He's like, "I was wrong." But that was an unbelievable night when all that stuff went down, when they got Ray Allen and they got KG and Pierce and Doc. I think they went to KG's house, didn't they, to recruit him for that. That was something that I will never forget. Bill, awesome time as always. Thank you so much for your insight on everything and your thoughtful discourse on the betting scene as well. Great stuff as always. And we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Thanks, Pete.
All right. Take care. That is going to do it for the Pete Sheppard Show. Again, short show today. And thanks again to Bill Sparrows for joining me as well here on the Pete Sheppard Show. I'll be back tomorrow with Angel Martinez. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. I believe we'll be live from the Naperville Planning Studios. I believe. But one way or another, we'll have a full show tomorrow, Friday, and all of next week. So have a great and safe rest of your, hey, is it Wednesday? Wednesday, right? Yeah, Wednesday. Have a great and safe rest of your hump day, everybody. We'll talk tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.